This handout is the product of a collaboration between myself and many others, including my colleague Minu Rana Stewart, the leadership team of the CBT Plus Training Initiative and the FAST Training Initiative, and some other colleagues, and lots of clinical supervisors and providers across the state of Washington in many different settings. On top of that, we've received invaluable consultation and input from our expert colleague, Dr. Aisha Metzger. So here's the handout. The first page includes some questions you can ask, some language you can use to support the helpful conversation that we're hoping that you will have. And the second page includes a script that you can use that actually has a little bit more detailed language about how you can go about having these conversations. So that could be something you look at during the conversation if it feels helpful, or that you review if you're interested in other language. And then the third page is a guide for therapists, and it talks about kind of the rationale for why we do this conversation. It talks about some of the challenges or pitfalls and how to manage them. And it includes some resources where you can learn a little bit more about these topics. Now, let me show you an example of what this conversation might look like. My colleague, Minu Rana Stewart, is going to portray a parent starting care. And in this demonstration, I'm meeting alone with the parent, but you could absolutely include a child in the conversation or in follow-up conversations. And if your patient's an older child or teen, it's likely you'll want to have this conversation directly with them. In my demonstration in a moment, I'm going to go through each of these bullets and ask a separate question for each of them, just so you can see what that looks like. But for efficiency, it's also okay just to show this, or maybe read through these and then ask one question, something like, what are the kinds of things that you want me to know today? All right, here's the demonstration. Okay, so Nana, the next thing that I want to do is look at this sheet that I look at with all families, because it helps me get to know you and your family. And the better I know and understand you, the better of a support I can be with the things that you're hoping I can help with. So I'll ask you some questions, and you get to decide what you want me to know, what you want to share with me. And you don't have to share things if they don't feel relevant, or if you just don't feel comfortable sharing them today.
Okay.
So first, I'm curious if there's an ethnic group or a cultural group that you identify with, or you feel like your family is a part of.
Well, I would say our family is multi-ethnic or multiracial. I'm Indian American. My husband is African American, and so that means our boys, including Nasim, are multiracial.
Okay. All right. Thanks for sharing that. And are there religious or spiritual beliefs that are important to your family that would be helpful for me to know about?
Well, I would say our family identifies as Christian. Like, I guess if we were asked about our religion, we're not super religious in terms of like going to church and engaging in structured religious activities, but we do things like, we pray before dinner.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then there's my side, right? That I'm uh, my parents are Hindu, and so I grew up with a lot of Hindu beliefs and traditions. And I wouldn't say I really celebrate them, traditions or celebrations a lot, but they're there. They're things that I think about. They're things that my kids know about them. Nasim does.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that. And I hope that anytime that it feels like it's important to whatever we're talking about, or if that could be a source of strength, in coping, or just feels like it'd be important to talk about, that you wouldn't hesitate to bring it into our conversations.
Okay.
And you've shared a bit about the sort of multi-ethnic, multiracial sort of identities that your family holds. And maybe we sort of covered this, but in terms of race, are there words that you like to use, or that the people in your family would use to describe themselves?
Um, well, if we're talking about race, I guess I would say, my husband is Black.
Mhm.
I guess technically I'm Asian, although I'll be honest, when people ask me about my identity, I revert to my ethnicity. I
Yeah.
say I'm Indian American. Like I said, my kids are multiracial, but not. They, let's be real, they are young Black boys. That's the way society sees them.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that is so important, I think, for understanding the world as your family and as your boys experience it. So thank you for sharing that with me. Um, and we'll maybe get into this a bit more. I hope this is something we talk more about. But in terms of my next question, gender, I also like to ask if there's anything that's important for me to know about gender of people in your family, about pronouns they prefer to use, or anything along those lines.
No, mom, dad, two boys. That's about it.
Okay. All right. And then sexual orientation or who people are attracted to. Is there anything that feels important to tell me about that?
Um, we're all straight. Um, that's how we are in our culture. I don't know. Can we skip over this?
Yeah, sure. Um, and I'm glad you said that, because we can skip over any parts of this that feel like they don't feel relevant, or that you're don't want to talk about today, especially because you're just getting to know me. Well, for this next one, family history or values, I guess I just like to invite people to tell me anything that feels important about your family's history or values that are really important to you.
Um, so I think I mentioned, um, even though our kids are multiracial, we're very keenly aware that a lot of people in society view them as Black. And so there's a lot of education that we have to do at home to prepare them for what it means to be young Black men in this world, because they're not going to get that education anywhere else. Schools aren't going to teach them. So that's important. Um, and then an interesting thing about Nassim. So I am a daughter of immigrant parents. And so growing up, I had my own kind of cultural conflict. And I think there was a period of my life that I rejected some of my Indian side, and I'm kind of coming full circle and learning to embrace and balance the best of both worlds. But Nassim, he is super interested in learning as much as possible about his Indian heritage. I think it's wonderful. So um, it makes me happy that even though I think some of society, not all, views him a particular way, he knows he's more than just that.
Yeah. Wow. Well, I'm hearing that you are so thoughtful in your family about being a guide to your sons and to preparing them for the world. And it's really cool that it seems like he really seeks that out from you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a neat kid.
Um, so I don't know if there's anything else about family history or values, or other background about your family, or who you are, that feels like it would be important for me to know about today.
So about Nassim, we've talked about, how he's so shy and quiet. Um, he's he's the younger of the two kids, and I wondered if that has to do with why he's so shy and quiet. Like, I feel like maybe we've always done everything for him. Like, I don't know. I'm not going to come up with the reasons, but I've wondered if like his placement in the family has something to do with that.
In some way, maybe being sheltered a bit, being the second son. Is that kind of what you're saying, that he hasn't? Yeah.
Yeah, not just by mom and dad, but the older brother too.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. That seems like important background to keep in mind. Thanks for sharing that. Well, I want to keep learning about your family. Some other questions I want to ask, but is there anything else coming to your mind that feels important to add about who you are, or identity, or background?
Not right now.
Okay. Well, there's always time, and I hope that you would never hesitate um, to share other things that feel important.
Okay.
And okay, so the next thing that I like to ask all families is about discrimination. So being treated unfairly because of how you look, or belonging to a certain group. And as I'm hearing in your description, and as we know, right, that this is so common, that one's ethnic or racial identity affects how they're treated. And it can have such a massive impact on our well-being, right? On our mental health, on our physical health. And so to the extent that you feel comfortable and want to share with me today, I'm curious to learn if you feel like discrimination is having an impact on your family's mental health, and also if you feel like this is related to Nassim's shyness and sort of loneliness that you've been sort of seeking help for.
Well, yes, we are a family of color. We've experienced discrimination, both my husband and I. I would absolutely say both of the kids have experienced discrimination too. And I think Nassim is at an age where he understands what discrimination is for sure, but I think he might label some of his life experiences as discrimination. Um, is it affecting our mental health? Well, of course, it's a stressor. Um, it's always there, right?
Yeah.
It's the world we live in. But for Nassim, is it why we're pursuing treatment? I wouldn't say it's the reason, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's part of the reason.
Okay.
Is he shy and lonely? Because yeah, for a lot of reasons. He goes to a mostly white school, currently his new school, right, that he's been having trouble adjusting to. The school he went to before was mostly white as well. Again, I have mentioned, he's had some experiences that are probably discrimination. He would say they were.
Yeah.
And it's probably related. Yeah, I would say it's related to why he's shy and lonely and other things.
Yeah. And I can imagine that adds to that sort of stress at school that you've described him sharing with you.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I appreciate you sharing it. And it seems like this is going to be important for me to explore with Nassim when I get a chance to meet with him next. Is there anything else at this time? And of course, we can revisit this topic a lot. But is there anything else you want me to know today about discrimination that's impacted him or you?
No, not right now.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing that with me. Um, I also always like to ask families about past experiences with mental health care. Sometimes you or people you know have had good experiences. Sometimes you've had bad experiences, and that can really help sort of me, as we get started to know about that. Is there anything any past experiences that'd be helpful to share?
Well, Nassim's not been in counseling before. He was in friendship group at school. That's probably like the closest thing to counseling he's been in, and it wasn't bad, but I don't think it was exactly what he needed, right? I think his shyness and stuff has more to do with maybe what happened in the friendship group. So there's that. But no, my husband and I went to marriage counseling early in our relationship, but it was through the church that we were a part of at the time.
Uh-huh.
Um, I didn't think it was that great of an experience, personally for myself, because I felt like I was being told what to do based on the teachings of the Bible versus yeah, it was just rubbing against some other beliefs that I had. But other than that, no. And then, I'm sure you've heard this before, Nat, but there's like stigma in the communities that we're part of, like our racial and ethnic groups. There's stigma around mental health and getting mental health treatment. So there's that. But we're at a point where we have to get help for Nassim. We don't know what else to do.
Well, I just appreciate you sharing that. I'm sorry to hear about the not so good experience you had with the counseling through your church. And I guess one thing I would say is if anything begins to rub you the wrong way, or if you feel told what to do, or that any of my advice runs counter to your beliefs, I hope that you would let me know. And that's never how I would intend to work with a family. And that uh, my goal would be to find ways to really partner with you. Um, and 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 if I have advice that doesn't feel like it fits, maybe we can massage it, right? Or we can shift it so that we can still find something that feels like it would work for you or fit with your sort of beliefs or style. Um, so I
Okay.
guess the other thing I would say is that I just really appreciate you trusting me, at least, for today, giving this a chance, knowing that there is that stigma in the community. This is maybe something pretty new, and you may not know exactly what to expect. And if you have any questions or concerns along the way, I'm always happy to talk through those. And I hope that you'll find that this is helpful.
Like I said, we gotta figure this out for Nassim.
Yeah. Well, I do have some ideas already based on what you've told me, but I want to continue with a few more things on this sheet here, just because they're so important. And really, the main thing left to do here is just to acknowledge that our backgrounds are different, right? Things like race, gender, life experiences can make a big difference in terms of people understanding each other. And when it comes to counseling, it could lead me to make a mistake or to misunderstand you, or to give bad advice, just because our backgrounds are different, or I might not see things the same way. And I just want to let you know that if that were to happen, I hope that you would tell me about it so that I can fix it, so I can do better or grow. If it doesn't feel comfortable to give me the feedback that you're feeling inside, I have on the back of this sheet the phone number for my supervisor, and it would truly be a gift to me if you were to share directly some feedback that could help me grow. But also, if you wanted to share that feedback in some other way that felt more comfortable to you, that's one way that you could do that, and I would be grateful for it.
We speak up, so
Good,
we'll let you
good.
know.
Okay. Well, so then, is there anything else coming to mind on this sheet that we haven't covered that you feel like we should cover today? Again, recognizing we can come back to any of this in the future.
No, I appreciate you asking that question about discrimination. I think it's hard for people to ask that, but it's important. And I think for Nassim, it's important. And like I said, I believe it's part of the reason he's struggling.
Okay. Well, I'll say that this comes up a lot in the work that I do with families. This is a common conversation to have. I'm hopeful that a conversation with Nassim, and that can be part of his treatment in a way that can be helpful.
Thanks.
Yeah. So one other thing I wanted to share that's at the bottom of this sheet is a QR code. Have you used a QR code before?
Yes.
Okay. So if you wanted to follow this QR code, if you're interested, there's a handout there. It's talks about strategies that caregivers can use, or parents, when their kids are dealing with racism, when racial stress or discrimination related stress is part of their life, and parents are looking for ways to ideas for how to provide support. So if you're interested, you can follow that. I'll just tell you, it is a lot. The handout is kind of dense. It's got a lot of information on it. So if that feels overwhelming, or if some families prefer to just talk about these topics rather than use the handout on their own, I'm happy to have conversations about this, or to sort of walk through the ideas in another way, or in a meeting, if that feels helpful.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be happy to take a look.
And it sounds like you're already so thoughtful and doing so much to support Nassim, and I can only imagine what a big difference that makes in his life. So there may be ideas that are new to you, and there may be things that it may or may not feel like there are new things, but I'd be eager to hear your reactions if you take a look.
Okay.
I would invite you to reflect on things you liked about that demonstration, as well as things maybe you didn't like or would do differently as the clinician. If you have any feedback for us, please don't hesitate to send it to us at fast@seattlechildrens.org. Thanks so much.